Roger, operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West. Here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines, developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Oh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Oh, wow. Continues to spark the child's imagination. The children. Bob Coupland has a report published September 15th stating, starting out he's explaining how 3,000 people spent Sunday at Ween Park promoting STREAM, stream learning. Now, the entire report is filled with technical and scientific excitement. The report shows growth and more potential in science, technology, reading, engineering, art, and math. This is all at the Oh Wow Center. Now, the report really highlights how important the Oh Wow Center has been to the downtown area. Story number 2, the cause and effect at 20 Federal Place. David Skolnick has a report published September 15th out of Youngstown and what looks like another wild ride for 20 Federal Place in downtown. Now, the report's headline gives the reader a sense that there are bills piling up in the downtown shakeup of 20 Federal Place. That it used to be filled with semi-filled with some activity, while it was when it had tenants who had they had to take their business elsewhere unexpectedly after they were given eviction notices. Now the report informs locals on present day activity taking place in the downtown region. I guess in what appears to be another failed project at 20 Federal Place. Now the report goes on to explain what is being discussed at the moment when it comes to city council plans to pursue 20 Federal Place. Now what got the story in is the backstory showing 2 failed efforts to redevelop the building. Now another talking point is the fact that the building was 20% occupied with some cash flow and future potential, but city financial director Cal Miasek, he says that this was costing the city about $400,000 annually, and now that the building is sitting, it's only costing the city that they just only have to pay the electric and fire suppression. So that's what got the story in, because right now the building is still sitting, and the bills they're saying that the article begins by saying the bills are piling up, folks. The story is still developing. Story number 3, the East Palestine story is still in the national spotlight. Stephanie Elvert has a report published September 15th out of East Palestine. The report actually comes out of Lisbon, but East Palestine is its neighbor. Now, the report explains how the story about the train derailment in East Palestine is still in top headlines. Now, it appears that a town hall was set to take place September 22nd. It's going to take place at Columbiana County Best Western to discuss potential legal action against the former settlement administrator of the $600 million deal, I guess the legal deal that was struck between Norfolk Southern and residents. So this is what's going on in the story. Now the Keenan Law Firm and Bressman Law will be leading the discussion. This is what the report says. Now, the report is packed with information. It is definitely worth a read for those in need of any updates when it comes to funding and lawsuits moving forward in the East Palestine saga. Now, that's what got this story in, because it's keeping the East Palestine story alive. Story number 4, YSU professor in top headlines. The Vindicator has a report published September 17th out of Youngstown explaining how Corey Brazina, an associate professor and associate director of the Youngstown State University Rand School of Engineering, I guess he got approved for his 4th National Science Foundation grant, as stated in the report. Now the grant was about $320,000. When we got the story in is because the article says that less than 12% of NSF applications nationwide are approved, but he's been getting approved. Now the report goes on further to explain how Brazina now has roughly $1.6 million in NSF funding, including the largest NSF grant in YSU history. He got that in 2020, so he's been doing some grant grant submissions. Now this alone is an amazing story, because this is almost word for word in the report, because the money will be used for artificial intelligence research at YSU. Story number 5, YSU seeing signs of hope. WFMJ has a report explaining how YSU has reported enrollment growth for the second year in a row. The report by Zach Mosca shows a 2.1% increase in total students compared to 2024. That's enrollment. Now, the entire article shows increases across the board when it comes to people signing up to go to YSU enrollment, folks. Let's get into the story to the top. Story number 6. What is the Thomas Bill? The Vindicator has a report published September 12th explaining how State Rep David Thomas will introduce legislation to prevent senior homeowners from being foreclosed upon, it will be foreclosed on for delinquent property taxes. Now, the report explains how the goal is to codify existing standard practices across the state to keep seniors in their home regardless of property tax delinquency. Now, this is almost word for word in the article, thus getting the story into the top 8. That's why story number 6 also made it to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 7 of the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week for you. Keep you informed, folks. If you do not get up this early and you do want to check the show out on the website, if you're an old timer or a new timer, old timers probably still watch TV, new timers are probably online, you can check out the show. I do upload it on Mondays on the website on the screen. I put it on our YouTube page just to keep you informed if you just want to check it out and see what's going on. Story number 7, Youngstown Foundation grants. The Vindicator has a report published September 17th explaining how the Youngstown Foundation will award $1.2 million in grants, which includes $400,000 to the Butler Institute of American Art. The article informs the reader about how the money will help support 2 major renovation projects. The report ends by listing what area nonprofits received a portion of the $1.2 million. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week for you to keep you informed, folks. If you do want to show some support, it doesn't take much. Don't have to do much. All you have to do is stop by the store at 5640 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio, and see my smiling face. Or you can go on the website and click on something, buy something, read something, order a sponsor program. We do post things on the website. Some of the stuff in the store is quality. Some stuff is used. Some stuff, maybe we get antiques. We get all kind of stuff in the stores to resell, clothes. So if you want to stop by and check us out, you're more than welcome to 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio. Story number 8, who made the grade? Chris McBride and Dan Pomley has a report published September 16th out of the Vindicator informing local residents on what local schools are showing improvement and what local schools are showing decline. Now, what got the story in is the fact that Youngstown City schools are showing improvement in achievement, while 15 other districts in both Mahoning and Trumbull County are showing declines. Now, the report is definitely worth a read as it goes all in when it comes to what districts improve. Now, I guess what districts stayed the same and what districts are showing decline. Now, the fact that Youngstown is showing improvement while now under local control is what got the story in, because this is a big debate. We don't know if we're going to be able to meet the grade. You can do it if you do it by yourself, and that's what's happening. Well, now they're doing it by themselves, and they're starting to show improvement. At least that's what the report says. I'll probably go to school. Probably, you never know what could happen in school. But that's what's the rate made to the top this week, folks. Well, folks, our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll bring back the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. In the Mediator, be Brad West. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that matters. Folks, this week we're talking about interesting people. And, the world is filled with interesting people. Unique people, individuals who walk around with stuff that normal people would not wear, gold gems and gold jackets, lace belts with leather zippers and all that stuff, and other people who are kind of proper and one lane, maybe simple, will look at that. Now, I would never come out the house with nothing like that on. It makes you wonder. When I used to as a child, I would go to church with my grandmother. I would see all kind of interesting reverends, and never forget this one reverend. And, this reverend had to have the most amazing jerry curl in town. Never seen anything like it. And to him, his jerry curl was fire. Nobody could tell him that his jerry curl was not the style, because to him, that's how he felt inside. This is his style. Every Sunday I go see this reverend, and his jerry curl was freshly, sprayed, and this was in the 80s, and he still wears the same jerry curl in the 2000s. And that's the thing about being unique is, other women may not look at, they may not see that as attractive, but if you take it back in the 80s, they be like, oh, that brother jerry curl is nice, let's go talk to him. He gets up there and he preaches, and I haven't been to his church in years, but this brother is still preaching in 2000s with the same jerry curl. He's an old man. And but back in the 80s, when he was young, I bet, and with the way he dresses, he dresses with all this elegance. And what he would tell me, and what he would get upset about, is the fact that he didn't have a lot of money as a reverend, and he wanted a reverend's paycheck, which is more money, so he could invest in his suits and get nice shoes and invest in his jerry curl. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, because we are in capitalism, and in capitalism, if you don't have no money, you can't invest in yourself. And this reverend would let it be known that he needed the sprays for his juice and his jerry curl, and he needed the money to buy new clothes, and he would get upset with his congregation because nobody in the congregation have no money. And I would kind of understand and empathize with this reverend, because it gets like that sometimes, Even when I'm running this program as the mediator, people expect, even if you are a religious or a Christian person, they want you to be broke. No, Christian people need money. Shoot, we need Creflo Dollar's money, T.D. Jakes' money. Anybody in news and in media, you don't even have to be a Christian. You could be a Muslim brother. One of the kingdoms of Saudi Arabia. You still need some money to buy chandeliers and run around with gator shoes. Who wants to see a broke king, Even Jesus had money. Him and Judas were best of friends. Judas ran off to the sunset while our Savior was crucified. It could have been better, folks. It could always be better. That's why we have to share our blessings. And I'm going to find this reverend, and I'm going to go buy him some of the best jerry curl juice in town, because I'm showing love, baby. And in mediation, there's a lot of love. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 1, an interesting AI story. Fortune has a report with a headline asking the question of if the AI bubble is about to burst. The article states that the data shows that it is. The report cites investment pullback as a factor. Now, the timing of this report is what got the story in. Now, I guess there's no solid certainty that the bubble will burst. That's what's an interesting part about the story. Now, the fact that artificial intelligence has already taken a number of jobs is what got this, or has the story still in top headline. Story number 2, the darkness of the Gaza war story. CNN has a report published September 16th by Catherine Nichols. Now, she's explaining how a UN commission says that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. Now, the article is extensive and really keeps the attention on what is taking place in Gaza. Nearly 65,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza since October 7th, when Hamas carried out an attack on Israel that caused the carnage to begin. Now, according to the report, the Israeli government has maintained that it is conducting the war in Gaza in self-defense and they're saying they're in accordance with international law. The report goes on to state that Israel is denying genocide accusations. Folks, this story is still developing. Story number 3. What do port fees have to do with energy policy? Forbes has a report published September 16th stating that port fees on Chinese ships will sink Trump's energy policy goals. Now, the report is very detailed. It really provides an overflow of information when it comes to energy policies under each administration. Now, one key talking point in the report states that USTR asserts that such fees, or what the article refers to as levies, will reduce the U.S. demand for Chinese shipping and provide investment incentives to U.S. shipbuilders who have struggled against Chinese shipments. Now, it states that the report also states that supported competition. Well, I guess the Chinese competition will somehow compete, but will bash with American competition, but they're saying these fees could somehow change that. Now, the report is really informative when it comes to revitalizing certain aspects of U.S. logistical supplementation. That means in the open seas, it could revitalize certain areas, but such fees could deal a blow to U.S. manufacturers who rely on integrated international supply chains, thus getting the story to the top 8 because shipping costs could also rise. Story number 4, the oil story. Grist has a report published September 16th updating the public on Trump's drill baby drill strategy. Now, the report's main idea focuses on Trump's fossil fuel strategy. It then goes on further to explain how he opened up vast stretches of public land and U.S. oceans for drilling and reduced the royalty rates that companies must pay for extracting oil and gas in these areas. Now, this is almost word for word according to the report. Now, the report goes on further to talk about plans to weaken EPA guidelines and expand federal tax breaks. Now, the report is really an eye-opener and goes on to explain what oil companies are going through at the moment under Trump's administration. Now, one key talking point that makes this story a must-read is the fact that the article gives the reader the feeling that oil companies are weathering the storm. Now, the report states that Trump has called for more drilling to lower domestic gasoline prices, but American companies see little reason to pump more oil when prices are below the break-even point. Now, the entire article tells the oil company's stories from their point of view and really shines more light on what is really taking place in the oil business. This article is definitely worth the read. That's my story number 4 made it this week. Well, folks, on our top 4 international headlines, developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back at top 4. So don't you go to the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines, developing news stories that made this week. Folks, this week we're talking about people who have flavor. Interesting people. You know, people who you walk around and you look by and say, oh my God, you know, that outfit would only look good on one person. Folks, there are people out here. There's a woman, and she comes into the store a lot, and I mean, this woman, everything she has on is bling, bling, you know. Just as soon as you see it, pops out. And when you see people like this, you wonder, you know, the world is filled with amazing people. You know, are these people different? The kings, the goddesses, divas, whatever. I mean, you see this woman, and the amazing part about it is she's an older woman, too. And she comes in, and as soon as she walks in, it's like an aura of light. You have to see what she's talking about. See how she feels. See whose heart she's breaking. And this is how the world is. It's designed, you know. And when you go out and walk around, you know, sometimes you see women like this. You know, you be walking and you be at a cash register, and as soon as they come into the store, the lights go off and things start happening. Brothers start looking and peeking at them legs, but that's how life is. It's just some people in the world like that. And not everybody is like that, you know. There's even, nice, big, strong women, too, that's like that. Big woman, I remember when I was in the military, there was a girl, she was a nurse, and all the other nurses would be treating the military veterans, they'll just put a Band-Aid on them, and, excuse me, Brian, how are you today? But you see her, she's all full of flavor and excitement. It's a beautiful day at the Naval Hospital, and we're going to all feel on each other and love each other and heal each other. And when you see her, you feel healed. That's just the way she works. She has an aura. She's special. Folks, not everybody possesses that ability. Some people are just born to be just basic. Born to be, that's why I say some people are unique. I'll never forget we had a Michael Jackson show, We had Michael Jackson impersonators. The fact is that the impersonators are not Michael Jackson. This one Michael Jackson impersonator I knew, he hated me. He called me all kind of names, cussed at me. Michael Jackson wouldn't do that. Michael Jackson probably would have said something. Hey, Brian, we gonna do this show. And but him knows, Brian, I'm gonna hate you. I'm like, you supposed to be a Michael Jackson person. They do some Michael Jackson stuff. Feel like Michael Jackson. Treat me like Mike. That's why I say some people are unique and some people are who they are. And you could try to force people to like these people. You could try to make people. But if you are just a rotten, scoundrel, greasy, nasty person, that's who you are. But I do want to give you an invitation. Is that if you want to change, you can come to the Lord and be blessed. This new generation, they have to learn about the Lord. Our prophet, he was amazing. He still is. And if you learn about him, he could change you, make you a better person, folks. That's what we want to talk about this week, becoming a better person. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 5, utility companies and top headlines. TCD had a report by Mike Taylor published September 16th stating that utility companies are facing crushing defeat after state Supreme Court has sided with homeowners. Now, the report begins by explaining a few solar panel stories. Then it dives into how the Supreme Court told the Court of Appeals to determine whether the Public Utilities Commission exceeded its authority with a new policy. Now, this is according to CBS News. Now, what got the story in is the fact that energy stories are staying in top headlines. As more information and data comes in, the ripple effect could keep such stories in top headlines headed into the fall and then winter. Now, increasing energy bills could also keep these stories trending. Story number 6, the housing report. Housing stories have stayed consistent in top headlines. Money Week has a report stating that landlords are forecast to exit the BTL market in droves. Now, the report is out of the housing. I guess this report is actually out of the UK, but it's showing that housing adjustments are being made not just in America, but around the globe. So this is why this report made it. Now, Reuters has a headline stating that U.S. single-family housing starts near 2 to 1.5 year lows as inventory blouts ways. So they're saying, so these are just conflicting reports, but it's showing that something's happening in not just America's real estate market, but in the world real estate arena. Now, CNBC has a headline stating that mortgage rates dropped to 3-year lows ahead of a Fed meeting. Now, Reuters has another headline stating that the housing market will remain stuck in a rut as high rates choke demand. Now, the continued pivots in the housing market is what has stories like these trending and what's keeping people's eyes on what's happening in the housing market, because when the fact that so many stories, so many headlines are making it in, that's what has stories like these trending. Big headline, folks. That's why story number 6 also made to the top 2 this week. We're talking about housing. Story number 7 of the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that I made this week. Folks, if you don't get up this early and you want to check out the show, I do upload to the website on Mondays, the website on the screen. If you want to check out what's going on and you just want to get up to date on the top 8, you can check out the website. I do upload the show on Monday. Story number 7, the work issue. MoneyWise has a report published September 14th, headlined by Mike Rowe, who warns that America has 7 million men in their prime who are not working and aren't even looking for work. Now the report, I guess the report sees this as a major American problem, and this is even happening at veterans groups. They're saying there's not enough younger veterans getting involved or becoming members, thus getting the story to the top. Story number 8 and the top international headline and developing news story that I made this week. Folks, if you do want to show some support, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program. Or you can stop by the store at 5648 Mark Street in Boardman, Ohio, and see my smiling face. Let's get to the top stories. Buy something in the store. Story number 8. Unemployment and inflation don't mix well. BBC News has a headline stating that inflation is hitting some Americans harder than others. The Washington Post has a headline stating that long-term unemployment is at a post-pandemic high and is straining workers and the economy. Now, each report was published around September 15th, showing more signs that high prices and, once again, a stagnant economy is on everyone's mind at the moment. You know, these stories have remained in top headlines. CNN has a headline published September 13th stating that double whammy for Americans. It has a colon is saying that double whammy for Americans. Inflation continues to rise as jobs outlook grows weaker. That's what the headline says. I have to read these headlines so they have to make sense as I mesh them together with the report. Now, with stories like these in top headlines, all eyes are now, have always been on money, but they're on money even more now at the moment because each headline is preaching doom and gloom. But people are watching the money and they're maneuvering. They're trying to keep up with the higher prices. Some people are holding 3 to 4 jobs, and some people are trying to find the big paying jobs, and some of these jobs are falling apart, folks. That's why Story Rage made to the top this week. Well, folks, there are top 8 local and international headlines developing news stories that I made this week. I hope you get something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the mediator, the man in the middle, navigating your news stories just to keep people informed. Folks, if you do want to show some support, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program. Or you can stop by the store at 5648 Mark Street in Boardman, Ohio, and see my smiling face. Well, folks, I'm out of here. I'll be back next week looking through over 200 or more stories just to keep you informed. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator this week with me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.